When Hulk Hogan was discovered dead inside his Florida mansion, the world believed that it was the end of a wrestling legend. But what ensued shocked everybody. Beyond the official report of heart failure, investigators discovered peculiar facts that did not seem right. From a clean gym to inoperative security and even a secret hidden room, what the FBI discovered left disturbing questions nobody anticipated. The day that marked the end of Hulkamania started like any other hot summer morning in Clearwater, Florida. July 24, 2025, the world woke up to the breaking news. Professional wrestling legend Hulk Hogan, whose birth name was Terry Jean Bollea, had been discovered unresponsive at home. He was 71. The initial alert came in the form of a desperate 911 call reporting cardiac arrest. Emergency workers swarmed to Hogan's mansion and quickly started life-saving procedures. Paramedics attempted frantically to revive his heart, but all attempts were futile. At precisely 11:17 a.m., Morton Plant Hospital doctors declared him dead. It was a finish no supporter of the man who once embodied strength, toughness, and larger-than-life charm had envisioned for the man. Early accounts came quickly and on cue. The cause of death was substantiated by the medical examiner as an acute myocardial infarction, a huge heart attack. The verdict was, natural causes. To everyone but the most cynical, it was logical. Hogan was in his 70s, and his body had been through half a century of abuse in the wrestling ring. The effects of decades slamming giants, constant travel, and over 24 surgeries had weakened him. But under that rational conclusion lay a tale that would not remain buried. His medical records gave a different picture, that of a man engaging in silent wars against leukemia and atrial fibrillation, both of them possible reasons for sudden cardiac arrest. Fans pictured him smiling in pictures, going for events, and turning up at charity matches, as strong as ever. But beneath camera flashes, his body bore scars, visible and otherwise. Despite that, his untimely death didn't fit the trend of deterioration. Friends claimed he had been training hard. His wife, Sky Daily, reported that he looked healthier than he had in years, committed to meditation, healthy food, and regular workouts. The evening before he passed away, he even texted a friend that he was feeling better than he had in 10 years. And when police showed up that morning, something about the atmosphere was not right. The atmosphere was not consistent with the story of an old man quietly passing away from disease. The officers noticed, and since this was not your average citizen, the case demanded more than a standard report. The Clearwater police immediately began an investigation and subtly called in the feds. That choice would take a tragic but common event and turn it into one of the weirdest celebrity death stories of the decade. When police entered Hulk Hogan's mansion, they noticed how clean everything was, neater than staged. The first thing they came to was his home gym, the sanctuary Hogan claimed as his own. But it was abnormally clean. Not a towel, not a water bottle misplaced. The weights were all in line, the mats clean, and the air held a whiff of bleach. To everyone else, it would be neatness. To experienced investigators, it was someone having cleaned the area prior to calling for assistance. Hogan was fastidious, but not compulsive. He exercised every day, and the lack of sweat stains or dropped equipment was highly suspicious. Then there was the next anomaly, his cutting-edge security system. Hogan's estate had one of the finest private networks in Florida, including motion sensors, cameras, and encrypted archives. But that morning, the whole system had been shut down, manually turned off from within the house. Not a power outage, not a glitch. Someone with immediate access had gone into the control panel and powered it down. The system log read the date and time, 3:42 a.m., only 8 hours before Hogan was discovered dead. No break-in. No alarms. Whoever was in that residence either lived there or was at least trusted enough to get past every layer of security. The FBI's cyber unit was brought in to reconstruct the system's data. They analyzed every digital footprint, from lights to thermostats. Smart home records revealed strange patterns, a thermostat adjusted twice during the night, doors opening and closing around 4 a.m., and a motion sensor briefly triggered in the basement, a part of the house Hogan rarely visited alone. But no faces appeared on any camera footage. Each lens had been shut down prior to the sequence. Then the call. 3 days prior to Hogan's death, Hogan took a late-night telephone call that would form the focal point of the investigation. His wife, Sky Daly, remembered that he answered the phone around midnight. Soon his face went white. For a man who had spent years in front of crowds, scandals, and lawsuits, fear was not something frequently observed in his eyes. However, that night he looked petrified. He didn't say a word for almost a minute, Daly reported to investigators. Then he whispered something I couldn't hear and hung up. After that, he couldn't sleep. The call was traced, or at least attempted. But the trail led nowhere. Whoever made it used an encrypted VoIP line rerouted through multiple international servers, Russia, Sweden, and Singapore, before vanishing completely. Even the FBI's cyber division struggled to follow the signal. It wasn't a spam call, nor a misdial. It had been deliberately concealed. Was he being warned? Threatened? Or shown something from his own past that rocked him to the core? After that night, Hogan's attitude changed. He locked himself in his office for hours, canceled training sessions, and refused to take fan calls. When Daly asked him what was wrong, all he could say was, "It's something I thought I left behind." To make sense of that cryptic statement, detectives needed to examine his life outside of the ring, the relationships and betrayals that didn't heal, the emotional scars that lingered. Publicly, Hulk Hogan was a masterfully crafted image, the all-American hero with the golden mustache and red bandana. Privately, there was a world of turmoil. His first marriage to Linda Claridge had given him 2 children, Brooke and Nick, and for years they were the perfect family on their reality show Hogan Knows Best. But beneath the smiles in their reality show Hogan Knows Best were fights, infidelity, and accusations that destroyed them. By 2007, the marriage fell apart in a whirlwind of media reports and acrimony. Hogan later confessed that he'd sunk into depression so severe that he'd considered taking his own life. He twice remarried after, first to Jennifer McDaniel, then at last yoga teacher Sky Daly in 2023. Daly restored tranquility to his world, or so it appeared. But his daughter Brooke never did forgive him for the tumult that overwhelmed their family. The two hadn't spoken in more than a year. When his will was later reviewed, Brooke had been entirely left out, with his son Nick being the sole beneficiary of a nearly $5 million estate. That revelation raised eyebrows, and suspicion. Disputes between family members tend to offer motives for manipulation, particularly when money, legacy, and grudges cross paths. Still, even that wasn't sufficient to clarify everything. The autopsy was true to show heart failure, but inconsistencies still lingered on the subtle side. Hogan had just 2 months previously undergone a risky spinal operation, a 4-level anterior cervical discectomy and fusion, ACDF, a surgery with a reputation for complications. Some speculated that during the operation, he could have been injured by a nerve, impairing his ability to breathe and possibly leading to cardiac arrest. His wife maintained the surgery had been successful, but gossip traveled quickly. Radio commentators speculated he was in critical condition. Pictures of him appearing pale just fueled the rumors. He replied with a brief video, flexing his arm, announcing, "The Hulkster's still runnin' wild, brother." Behind the grin, however, he was apparently hurting. Medical records fetched from his home included post-operative entries cautioning against nerve-related complications. That in itself could have accounted for his death, were it not for what was discovered next. In a second forensic search of his home, detectives uncovered a secret door in the basement, cleverly hidden behind a paneled wall. Inside, there was a small temperature-controlled room, quiet, sealed, and carefully organized. It had rows of files, some from decades past. Financial records, personal letters, phone calls, and encrypted hard drives lined the desk. Among them were recent reports, one document marked July 23, private, with timestamps from the evening before he was killed. That finding turned everything upside down. The hidden room contents were never completely published, but leaked accounts indicated that some documents mentioned private correspondence with unknown parties, perhaps related to the clandestine telephone call. A handful of documents had the logos of corporate law firms and medical centers. Others had handwritten annotations with cryptic statements such as "final deal," "insurance," and "archive location." Was Hogan concealing something? Guarding himself against blackmail? Or getting ready to expose another? Federal authorities were tight-mouthed, but people familiar with the probe said the inquiry went beyond Florida. Agents allegedly contacted sources in California, where Hogan had previously owned ventures associated with wrestling promotions and licensing rights.